Hello, my name is Rafael Noguera, and I'll be doing a presentation on diversity and the future of sports. Starting off with a quick overview, in the present moment, we're currently at a point where there is unprecedented diversity in the world of sports. This is thanks to multiple factors like a positive change in societal trends, the aspect of technology, and cultural shifts in sports. These same factors have the opportunity to continue their positive contributions to diversity. And by going over each factor and how they provide opportunities for further growth in the future, we will be able to provide a clearer picture of the future and what we need to do to continue this positive trend. First and foremost are societal trends. The most important aspect of these is the growth of support for diversity and inclusion. More and more people are starting to realize how important it is for not just sports organizations, but organizations across the board to have diversity and inclusion. And combined with the rise in the use of social media, this will mean that individuals and groups that support diversity and inclusion are able to make their voices heard. We are already seeing this in the present, and it will likely only continue to grow in the future. This will mean that more and more organizations will face pressure to apply DEI in their operations. This rise in support also means that more fans will be mindful of situations involving issues relating to this. These are fans that are buying tickets, they're buying merch, so what they think and what they have to say is going to be important for these sports organizations. But this is not just limited to changes from outside factors, but it also includes changes from within. As the demographics change and more diverse groups gain opportunities to become members of sports organizations, such as athletes, management, and other members, they will be able to enact change from within. This will mean that diversity has an increased value within the organization. However, societal trends also host challenges for the future of diversity as a core principle in sports organizations, since there is a rise in pushback. I will elaborate further on this in a later section. But for now, we can move on to the technological factor. Since it's hard to tell what new technologies will be created in the future, the main aspect to focus on here is the wider adoption and increased use of existing technologies. This means that more and more companies that weren't using these technologies before will change and start including them, and their roles themselves will increase as well. Among these are data analytics, which is what I'm studying in this university, and it is already being used for tracking demographics and other statistics that are important for diversity efforts. Also, AI, as much as I don't like to say it, will likely also see an increased use in the future with similar uses as data analytics. And as previously mentioned, social media offers a great tool for individuals and organizations to create movements and quickly gain support in order to continue promoting diversity and inclusion. These technological advancements are here to stay, and if anything, they're only going to continue to grow and their influence will continue to increase. Third factor is the cultural shift in sports, which is highly tied to societal trends, since when society changes, so do sports. We can expect recent shifts to continue, such as sports becoming less gendered, meaning more participation from across gender and equality initiatives to continue growing, and sports becoming less segregated. Although legally segregation is outlawed, the barriers are still high in some areas that support the operational definition of the word, meaning that certain groups are still left out. I know that in this class, when I was researching for one of the discussion posts, I looked at snowboarding, which is still predominantly white male dominated. But this will continue to change as organizations continue to examine their rules to combat biases and support groups with less access to those areas. Of course, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, and there will definitely be some challenges along the way. In terms of technology, it will be important to ensure that it's used to the benefit of everyone and doesn't just reinforce the same biases. This can be addressed by monitoring the technology closely and analyzing the results of its implementation. This means not just looking at the results on paper, but actually looking at what they do in the real world. Big one in terms of societal trends is the rising movement against DEI seen in some groups. I found an article from the USA Today that talked about the NFL receiving some pushback recently for its DEI initiatives. While this challenge is more complex since it deals with deep socio-political forces, a good idea to help deal with this would be to shift the conversation regarding DEI. This is a little complex, but it involves reminding people that diversity is an advancement for the human race as a whole and not something that should be seen as an unfair advantage for some. Tied to this, another challenge that could arise is that organizations could be unwilling to change. This would be compounded by the fact that we are likely facing a stripping of regulations, especially when it comes to DEI. This map that I saw from NBC showed that more than 30 states have introduced legislation against DEI enforcement in some form or another. While it will take some time for this to change on the governmental side, like I mentioned before, thanks to social media and a rise in support for DEI, the people can hold organizations accountable. Looking at how making the best out of the future could play out in the long term, we have a timeline for where it could all lead. Starting out, we could call this the past, where there was limited diversity and inclusion in the world of sports. Then this is when diversity started becoming a priority, and we would probably fall somewhere after this right now. By making the best out of the future opportunities, there would be a societal and demographic shift to diversity. That means that diversity and inclusion becomes more important to people across the country or the world, and the actual demographics in the world of sports begin to change. This would lead to organizations exhibiting inherent diversity, which means that the people that make up these sports organizations would be made up of representing the world's diversity. And then from here, this would create a cycle. Since when organizations are diverse, that means that the things that they put out are also promoting these ideals. Then the people begin to take in these ideals and support the organizations that promote these. So it becomes a cycle. Looking at the wider world, on one hand, there are many countries that are also in alignment with supporting diversity and inclusion efforts and how important it is. There's also international sports organizations such as the Olympic Committee and FIFA that also support these ideals. And awareness will continue to grow across the globe. On the other hand, there are many countries that adhere to outdated customs and stereotypes. In the video that I saw that was provided this week, I saw that one of the women was talking about Saudi Arabia and how they were proposing or drafting a law that banned women from gyms. And this obviously is a big step back in terms of diversity, but there are many countries that are like this. There's also inequality between the nations themselves in the sporting world, which stems from economic factors. So within competition, like obviously the countries that are more well off economically are able to perform better, which means that other countries are underrepresented. And around the world, there are also many counter movements against diversity. This is tied to those countries that adhere to their old and outdated traditions and stereotypes. And often, in every single country, there is a group of some size that supports this. And this is seen in other countries as well. But all in all, we're currently at a point where diversity in sport is seeing on an unprecedented rise. And this progress can continue to grow, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will if it's left alone. By being aware of the opportunities and challenges that these factors will present in the future, we will be able to be prepared to make the best of them and capitalize on the opportunities that we have. Thank you.